Welcome to the deep dive. Forget the usual documents and data. Today we're venturing into a different world, one that holds surprisingly potent lessons for how we learn and grow.
Yeah, we're plunging into the Black Belt Blueprint, an intelligent approach to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu by Nicolas Gregoriades.
And when you first hear jiu-jitsu, it might seem, a bit removed from your everyday quest for knowledge or getting better at something.
But that's exactly where it gets interesting. How can the principles of a martial art inform how you learn and excel in whatever field you're exploring?
This book,
Mm-hmm.
let's see, it's from Jiu Jitsu Brotherhood Publications, copyright 2015, published late 2013. It's not just about techniques like arm locks and sweeps.
No, not at all. Nicolas Gregoriades, he shares a bit of his own story in the dedication. He saw how jiu-jitsu could be, genuinely life-changing.
He also saw this statistic, which is kind of sobering. Only a tiny fraction, like 5 out of 1,000 people who start, actually get a black belt.
Right. So his motivation, his reason for writing this was to help more people get those benefits, to kind of demystify this path that can seem really overwhelming.
And that mission, I think, connects directly with what you might be looking for in a deep dive like this one.
Yeah, because Gregoriades isn't just focused on the physical moves. He's really dissecting the learning process itself.
He talks about needing a strong conceptual foundation, building up physical and mental traits.
And developing a certain mindset. These are, universal things for mastery, whatever you're trying to master.
Okay, let's get right into it then.
Hmm?
Early on, Gregoriades says something pretty powerful. Reading books and watching videos about jiu-jitsu is not doing jiu-jitsu.
Oof. Yeah, that's a stark reminder, isn't it? That just soaking up information passively, which we all do, is totally different from actually putting it into practice.
So when you hear that, what does it make you think about how you learn something new, whether it's for work or just a hobby?
It really hits on that key difference. You can read every study in your field, collect all the data, but real understanding, that comes from wrestling with the ideas, trying things out, applying it.
It's like reading about playing the guitar versus actually picking it up.
Exactly, trying to make a sound, fumble through chords. That direct experience, that's where the learning really clicks.
Absolutely. Now, the way Gregoriades structures the book is quite smart. He starts with the groundwork, sections called Before You Start, and the framework.
Right. And he really pushes the system built on understanding core concepts and basic movements first.
His goal isn't just to give you a big list of techniques. It's more about empowering you to become your own teacher, in a way.
And that's so insightful, this focus on a versatile foundation instead of just copying what an instructor does or, following a tutorial online.
Yeah.
You're pushed to understand the why. Why does this work? Why this way?
Which gives you adaptability, right?
Yeah.
You can problem solve.
Precisely. It fits perfectly with wanting to really get the underlying principles, not just surface level stuff.
He also stresses something crucial for any kind of learning: keeping an open mind.
Oh, yeah. Questioning dogma, questioning established beliefs. If you just accept everything,
You hit a wall.
exactly, your growth just stalls.
And that ties into the value of looking at things from different angles, seeking out multiple perspectives.
For sure. If you get stuck in one way of thinking, you miss out on potentially better ways, different approaches. Continuous growth needs that willingness to challenge yourself.
So to give us context, he lays out a quick history of BJJ. Starts with judo, right?
Yep. Brought to Brazil by Mitsuo Maeda back in 1914, Maeda taught Carlos Gracie.
And it was the Gracie family, Carlos, and especially Helio, who really refined it.
Through what they called no-rules fights, basically real-world testing.
And they focused it on ground fighting and using leverage.
Which was the game changer. It meant a smaller person could actually handle a bigger, stronger opponent effectively.
That leverage principle is key. It's not about being the strongest guy in the room.
It's about intelligent application of technique, understanding mechanics. Then, the UFC happened in the 90s.
Yes, Royce Gracie.
Yeah.
Often the smallest fighter.
And just dominating with BJJ. That really put it on the map globally, showed everyone how effective it was.
Right. And it's still evolving, with MMA and sport BJJ competitions now.
So when Gregoriades explains how jiu-jitsu works, he keeps coming back to positional strategy. That's paramount.
Unlike striking, where you might look for one big knockout.
BJJ is more like, okay, first, get a dominant position on the ground, control them, then look for the submission.
A choke, a joint lock, something like that.
It's a very strategic, calculated approach, like chess almost. Each move aims to improve your spot, limit their options.
And he emphasizes this has been tested, rigorously. in real fights.
Yeah, getting that dominant position, it gives you gravity, leverage, huge advantages, makes you safer too.
He gives this basic formula: takedown, transition, position, submission.
Simple, but crucial. Get him down, move to a better spot, lock down that control, then finish.
And he points out a super common beginner mistake.
Skipping position.
Exactly. Trying to jump straight from the transition to the submission.
Which, is like trying to build a house without laying the foundation first.
That's a great analogy. It applies everywhere, right?
Yeah.
You want the final result, the advanced technique.
But you haven't done the groundwork. You haven't mastered the basics or understood the core ideas.
Gregoriades really hammers home that comprehensive control, whether it's physical control or controlling variables in, say, an experiment. That has to come first.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's dig into the positions. This is where that strategy really plays out. He sets up a hierarchy of control.
From the attacker's view, yeah. Most dominant down to least. Top of the list, back mount.
Often called the gold standard. When you have someone's back, they can't really attack you easily.
Can't see you well.
And their neck is just right there. Very vulnerable to chokes, strangles. You control their upper and lower body pretty well.
Defensive tip for the person caught.
Protect the neck, always. And for the attacker, a key warning. Don't cross your feet.
Right, leaves you open to a footlock from them.
Yep. Okay, next down is the mount. You're sitting on their torso.
Also very strong. Gravity's helping you. Lots of attacks from there.
Chokes, arm locks mainly. Or you might try to transition from there to the back mount, which is even better.
Defensively, the person underneath needs space.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I got to get those elbows, forearms in between your bodies, create some structure. And again, attackers shouldn't cross their feet. Same reason.
Got it. Then there's knee on chest.
Mm.
Or knee on belly, sometimes called.
Yeah, this one's interesting. Gives the attacker a lot of mobility, actually. Good balance means good pressure, good control.
And you can set up attacks from there easily. Plus, it's just uncomfortable, demoralizing for the person underneath.
Definitely. Offensively, keep that attacking knee's foot off the floor for maximum pressure. Control an arm.
And defensively, he specifically warns against
putting your hand on their knee. Seems instinctive, but it often opens you right up for an arm lock.
Oh, okay. Next is north-south. He calls this kind of in between.
Yeah, often a transition point. Maybe they escaped side control or you're setting up a Kimura arm lock.
Not as many direct attacks as mount or back mount.
Generally, no, but still good control if you can hook under their armpits, keep your hips low. Defensively, the main thing is keep your elbows tucked in tight.
Then turtle, another transitional spot.
Usually happens when someone escapes a worse position, like mount or side control. They curl up.
Attacker wants to submit them or take the back.
Right. While the defender is just trying to get out of there, maybe get back to guard or stand up.
Offensive tip for the attacker.
Keep your knees off the ground. Use gravity. Drive with your hips defensively. Elbows on thighs, hands protecting the neck.
Okay, finally the guard, which he says is the most common position in BJJ.
Definitely. Guard is basically any time you're on the bottom, but you're using your legs to control the opponent, wrapping them up somehow.
And he breaks it down further. First, close guard.
Closed guard is seen as the safest for the person on the bottom. Your legs are locked around their torso. Really hard to pass.
And lots of attacks from there. Sweeps, too.
Oh, yeah. Tons of options. Submissions, sweeps to reverse the position. For the person in the guard, the attacker, Gregoriades says maintain grips before you try to open it. Break their posture, pull their head down. Try to get an elbow across their center line.
And for the person playing guard, on the bottom.
Good posture is key. Don't let them break you down. And don't overextend your arms, reaching for things, big risk for arm locks.
Then there's open guard. Sounds complex.
It is, maybe the most complex. So many variations. De la Riva, X guard, spider guard. Endless.
Lots of sweeps from open guard.
Loads. But the trade-off is it's generally easier for the top person to pass because your legs aren't locked. The key is keeping your feet and legs super active, pushing, pulling, controlling distance.
Gotcha. And the last guard type is half guard.
Right, where you've only got one of their legs trapped between yours.
So the top person, the attacker, wants to pass completely or submit.
Yep, improve their position. While the bottom person, the defender, wants to escape that leg back to full guard, or maybe sweep them from half guard.
Attacker uses shoulder pressure often.
Very common, yeah. Heavy shoulder pressure. Defender needs to create frames with their arms to keep space and prevent the pass.
Okay, that's a lot of positions.
Yeah.
And after laying all that out, he gives some important advice.
Yeah, don't over-specialize, especially when you're starting.
Get a feel for everything first. build a balanced game.
Exactly. Understand the whole landscape before you decide to build your house in one specific spot. Specializing comes later.
That makes so much sense for learning anything, really. Get the fundamentals down across the board.
Build that broad base. It makes you more adaptable, less likely to have huge holes in your game or your knowledge.
Right. Okay, so still in part 2, the framework, he moves to what he calls the 3 pillars of a black belt. Broader elements. First is attribute maximization.
This is important. He's saying technique is crucial, obviously, but physical attributes matter too. Strength, power, flexibility, pressure sensitivity, balance, coordination, endurance.
He tackles that myth that technique beats everything. Right?
Yeah, he's realistic. All else being equal, the stronger, fitter person often has an edge. It's not just technique.
So true mastery needs you to develop a range of skills, physical and mental.
Exactly. It's about the whole package.
Okay, pillar 2, technical knowledge.
This is what most gyms focus on, he says. Learning the moves, the responses, like if they do X, you do Y.
He makes an interesting distinction here between technique collectors.
Right, people who know a lot of moves, but maybe not super deeply, breadth over depth.
Versus effective fighters who might know fewer things but know them incredibly well, depth.
The ideal, of course, is both, breadth and depth. He also mentions repetition and visualization here as keys to improving technique, which we'll get back to.
And the third pillar.
Becoming complete. Basically bringing it all together. The physical strength and attributes, the deep conceptual understanding, and the sharp technique. That's the well-rounded practitioner, the jiu-jitsuka.
He also touches on the belt system, how progress isn't always straight up.
No, definitely not linear. Plateaus are totally normal. And actually, for people with mental toughness, those plateaus can be signs you're about to break through to the next level.
That's encouraging for anyone learning anything difficult. Sticking points aren't failure, they're part of the process.
Precisely. Don't let them discourage you. Okay, part 3 gets into the core concepts, the underlying principles. And the very first one is breath control.
He calls it the bedrock. Super fundamental.
His argument is, look, if you can't control your breathing when things get tough, you're tired, under pressure, someone's crushing you, then all the fancy techniques in the world won't help much.
There's a direct link between breath, your mental state, and how you move.
Absolutely. Smooth breathing equals smoother, more effective movement. Panicked breathing leads to jerky, inefficient movement.
It's not just about oxygen, then. It's managing stress, focus.
Exactly. Using breath as a tool. He even mentions percussive breathing, normal inhale, short, sharp exhales as one efficient method.
And coordinating breath with movement. Exhale on effort.
Yeah, exhale when you contract or fold forward, inhale when you expand or arch back. Good for spinal flexibility, too. He actually recommends Ashtanga yoga for developing this.
Interesting connection. Okay, next concept. Dominating the center.
This means controlling your opponent's center lines. Imagine a line across their shoulders, top center, and one across their hips, bottom center.
Controlling those points gives you stability and leverage.
Huge leverage. It's fundamental to controlling someone. Think about knee on chest, you're right on their center.
Third concept. Using angles effectively. This sounds crucial?
He says it's so important he built his whole system around it. Basically, leverage is way more effective when you're at an angle to your opponent.
Like 45 or 90 degrees between your spines.
Ideally, yeah. If you're square on, chest to chest, leverage is much harder to generate. Create an angle, and suddenly things work much better.
That applies way beyond jiu-jitsu. Tackling a problem from a different angle.
Totally. Gives you new leverage, new perspective.
Okay, then he groups posture and structure for stability and force.
And the relationship between PowerPoint and base.
Base is your foundation, your hips.
Yeah.
PowerPoint is where you apply the force.
Right. And the closer those two are your base and where you're applying force, the stronger the leverage. He uses the Americana arm lock and scissor sweep as examples.
Makes sense. Then there's that old wrestling saying.
Where the head goes, the body follows.
Use their head to steer them.
Or stop them.
Yeah, the head's like a lever. Twist their head, and it messes up their whole body's alignment and mobility.
And related to that, where you look is where you go.
Uh-huh. Your gaze direction actually influences the power and efficiency of your own movement. Like looking where you want to bridge towards makes the bridge stronger. It shows how interconnected everything is. Subtle things have big effects.
It's not just brute strength, it's understanding these mechanics.
Final concept in this part. How to attack joints effectively.
Key idea here. Control a joint above and the joint below the one you're attacking.
Proximal and distal control.
Exactly. So if you're attacking the elbow, like in a straight arm lock.
Control the shoulder and the wrist.
Right. That isolates the elbow, stops them from moving the whole limb to escape, and lets you apply force directly to the joint. Very efficient.
Smart principle.
Yep.
Could apply elsewhere, too, controlling related factors.
Definitely. Okay, part 4 is on the mat, putting theory into practice. First up, the importance of repetition.
And he means serious repetition.
Oh, yeah. He says movements might need 500 to, 5,000 reps to become truly reflexive, automatic, bypassing conscious thought.
He contrasts that with how some gyms train, maybe not enough drilling.
Potentially. He points to Japanese arts like judo, where repetitive drilling, uchikomi, is huge, and suggests it contributes to their success.
His advice is practice until you're sick of it.
Yeah. He says boredom is actually a sign you're getting close to mastery. It means the conscious mind isn't struggling with it anymore.
That's a tough standard, but it makes sense. Internalizing it completely.
It's not just knowing it intellectually, it's programming your body. He then gives a method for how to memorize techniques efficiently.
A step-by-step process.
Yeah, involving watching, naming the steps, saying it aloud, practicing slowly without resistance, talking through it, eyes closed practice, then light resistance.
Hits multiple learning styles, visual, auditory, kinesthetic.
Exactly. Very thorough. And he notes that mastering one complex move makes learning the next one easier, like you're building your learning muscle.
Interesting. Then he covers fundamental movements, calls them the vowels of grappling.
Nice analogy. These are the basic building blocks you need for everything else. Bridging.
Power from the hips, glutes, for escapes.
Shrimping.
Creating space, essential for keeping guard, escaping pins.
Shoulder roll.
Defense, protecting your neck.
Hip projector.
Engaging someone on top. Scrambling.
And the 45-degree sit-out.
Creating space. Transitions, he gives specific tips for each, emphasizes practicing them constantly.
They need to be absolutely automatic, like breathing. They're the foundation for all the more complex words and sentences you'll use on the mat.
Makes sense. From there, he goes to essential defensive techniques, gives examples.
Like the bridge and shrimp escape from mount, combining two fundamentals, getting to your knees from side mount, the elbow to knee escape from mount.
Which he calls the game of hips and elbows.
Yeah, highlighting how crucial coordinating those body parts is for defense. Having solid escapes gives you confidence to try things offensively.
You're not terrified of ending up in a bad spot.
Exactly. Then essential attacks, a core set of high-percentage submissions.
Things that work often, like the straight arm lock from guard.
Teaches a lot of core concepts, he says. Grips, angles, hip power.
Cross choke from out.
Classic, very effective strangle. Requires good balance, patience.
Scissor sweep.
Teaches key sweeping ideas like controlling the wrist and arm.
Bow and arrow choke.
Powerful back attack. Uses the angle for more leverage. Technically a strangle, not a choke.
And the triangle choke.
Which he calls the ultimate submission. Amazing leverage and control. Super versatile. Key is pulling the head down, crunching, getting your shin across the neck right.
That's a solid offensive foundation.
Yeah.
He also talks specifically about understanding the grip.
Which is huge, but often overlooked. Gripping too hard, like a death grip, just burns out your forearms.
Use fingers like hooks.
Yeah, more efficient. And he gives tips for grips for choke strangles, hand-wrist alignment, wrist position like knives for pressure.
Conserves energy, makes techniques much more effective.
Definitely. Lastly, in this section, training for competitions needs a different approach.
Yeah, faster, tighter, more explosive, less room for error.
So training needs higher intensity, simulating competition conditions, building mental toughness.
And he brings up the 80-20 rule here.
Right. Focus on mastering the 20% of techniques, offense and defense that will probably get you 80% of your results in competition. Be really, really good at your core game.
Smart training principle. Work smarter, not just harder.
Exactly. Okay, part 5 is fascinating. He calls it invisible jiu-jitsu. Things beyond just the physical moves. First is awareness.
Shifting focus from just winning or losing.
To being aware in the present moment. Noticing what your body is feeling, what sensory info you're getting from your opponent and the environment.
He even recommends meditation.
Yeah, as a way to train that awareness muscle. He mentions studies showing it can even increase the size of brain areas processing sensory data.
That focus shift from outcome to process is huge in many fields.
For sure. It allows deeper learning, better performance under pressure than the relaxed and efficient grappler.
Conserving energy, using minimal force.
Efficiency is key. He talks about selective tension. Only tensing the muscles you need for that specific moment, keeping everything else relaxed.
Prevents burning out, allows faster reactions.
Right. He suggests things like balance training unilateral work, Swiss balls, and learning to use your legs and core for power.
With arms acting more like a rudder.
Great analogy. He even suggests sparring with no hand grips sometimes to force you to use your core and legs properly.
Wow. And grappling with eyes closed.
Yeah, to enhance sensitivity, balance, timing, spatial awareness, feeling pressure, and just learning to relax under duress.
Seems counterintuitive, but probably forces you to rely on different senses, developed intuition.
Exactly. Then he suggests using flow diagrams.
Like mapping out your own game, your go-to moves, transitions.
Yeah, to see where the gaps are, consolidate what you know, visualizing your strategy.
And finally, the power of visualization. Mental practice.
He talks about how mentally rehearsing techniques or whole matches can measurably improve physical performance.
Like running it through in your head.
Yep, and first person, third person, practicing concentration. Super useful if you can't physically train as much as you'd like. Strengthens those neural pathways.
Powerful tool. Okay, part 6. Improving off the mat. Supplemental training.
Which he says is crucial to reach your potential. And always ask, why am I doing this? For every exercise. Purposeful training.
Right, so what does he recommend? Yoga comes up again.
Big time. For flexibility, lubricating joints, fixing imbalances from all the grappling. For strength, he calls it intelligent strength, core focus, posture, isometric holds, balance, breath control, mental focus.
He calls jiu-jitsu and yoga combat yoga.
Yeah, sees a strong synergy. He also mentions climbing.
For grip strength. Makes sense.
Swimming.
Cardio, no impact, good for recovery, breath control.
And various kinds of resistance training weights, body weight, gymnastics, animal movements.
There's power, specific strength, agility, coordination.
He gives a sample conditioning circuit, emphasizing feeling energized after, not wrecked. And again, strongly recommends finding a good yoga teacher if you start Iyengar, Vinyasa, etc. Be careful not to push too hard in yoga either.
Just a really holistic view of preparation. It's not just mat time.
Not at all. And that includes nutrition for jiu-jitsu.
His advice seems pretty focused on whole foods, reducing inflammation.
Yeah. Eliminate sugar. Limit meat, dairy, gluten, citing potential issues like inflammation, energy drain, acidity. Avoid processed stuff, big meals.
Maximize fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds.
Preferably raw or lightly cooked veg. Nut seeds, soaked, sprouted if possible. Fresh juices. He loves coconuts, hydration, nutrients. Mentions potential benefits of fasting, too.
Pretty clean eating approach, aimed at performance and recovery.
Seems like it. Okay, part 7. The jiu-jitsu lifestyle. Broader integration. Starts with the essence of jiu-jitsu.
Goes beyond fighting. Efficiency, art, presence.
Mindfulness. He calls it a tool for destroying delusion, forcing you into the present. Shares a story about getting beaten by an older, less athletic black belt.
Showcasing true efficiency over just strength.
Exactly. Skill, economy of motion, deep understanding. That's the essence.
Then he talks about competing. Practical advice.
Like, don't wait until you feel 100% ready, because you might never feel that way. Action comes first, feelings follow. Rest properly beforehand taper training.
No excuses, know the venue, control your breathing.
And be gracious, win or lose. Good sportsmanship.
Important life lesson there. What about avoiding common injuries?
Big focus on prevention through strength training. And the golden rule. Tap early, tap often, ego causes injuries.
Protect yourself for the long haul. He mentions common spots, knees.
Yeah, hinge joint, don't twist it. Strengthen muscles around it. Fingers, thumbs, keep them cupped when not gripping. Ribs warm up torso, strong core. Lower back address issues from sitting, strengthen core. Yoga helps.
Good practical tips. He also covers training in Brazil, the pilgrimage idea.
Offers tips.
Yeah.
Research gyms. Smaller might be more authentic. Watch out for different pricing. Check with your home coach. Brazilians train hard, especially with foreigners.
Adapt to heat, stay humble, learn some Portuguese, be safe.
Yeah, valuable insights for anyone thinking of going. Then a crucial topic, overtraining.
Where less can be more. Burnout is real.
He lists signs. Slow reactions, no motivation, gaining fat, always sore or tired, getting sick often. Says you need time off to repair and actually get stronger. Don't just push through constantly.
Rest is part of training, not avoiding it.
Absolutely. And he wraps this section by framing jiu-jitsu not just as a sport, but as a journey of personal evolution, beyond just winning belts or medals.
A path for growth.
Yeah.
Okay, final part 8 is further resources.
Yeah, tons of recommendations. Specific training videos, DVDs, websites for technique or lifestyle stuff, books, magazines.
He lists specific titles and sites, like
Yeah.
Roy Dean, Marcelo Garcia, Saulo Ribeiro.
Yep, gives concrete examples across different media. Also recommends specific academies worldwide, vouched for personally or through trusted sources, known for good atmosphere.
That's helpful. And he ends with FAQs.
Yeah, common questions. Difference between BJJ and Japanese Jiu Jitsu, ground focus, live sparring. How to pass the guard. Needs specific instruction. Am I too old? No. Helio Gracie example. Supplements. Not a magic bullet. Best conditioning. Listen to your body. How often to train. Keep it fun. Listen to body. Consistency is key.
Covers the basics well. And the bit about himself and acknowledgments.
Standard wrap-up stuff.
Okay, so as we finish this deep dive into the Black Belt Blueprint, what are the big takeaways for listeners? Hopefully it's clear that mastering anything complex,
whether it's jiu-jitsu or something totally different in your life,
it's way more than just learning facts or techniques.
Absolutely. It's holistic, understanding core concepts, consistent mindful practice, looking after your physical and mental health.
And really developing that mindset of awareness and efficiency. These ideas apply everywhere.
We really hope you had some of those aha moments, where something clicked about your own learning, your desire for real understanding, maybe seeing things from a new angle.
Yeah, those principles of effective learning, building a solid foundation, mindful practice, you can take those and use them right now.
Which leads us to maybe one last thought to chew on. Gregoriades said, Jiu-Jitsu is simple, you just got to do it right.
Simple, but not easy, maybe.
Right. So, considering everything we've unpacked, the concepts, the training, the mindset, what does doing it right really mean for your learning journey, whatever you're pursuing?
Is it just about the specific skills? Or is it more about those underlying principles, the approach, the intention you bring to it?
Something to think about. We really encourage you to reflect on how these ideas might connect to your own interests. Maybe even check out the book itself or Gregoriades' other work.
And if anything really sparked your interest today, or if you have follow-up questions, we'd love to hear about it. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.